teaching you how to iron your shirt today. So what you need to start with is you want to take the sleeve with the patch on it. You want to make it nice and flat. This one doesn't have any creases on it, but try and get the creases nice and flattened out as quickly as you can when you start out. And what you're going to do is you're going to spray a little bit of starch on it, not too much. You're just going to run over with the iron sleeve, get all the creases out, make sure it's nice and flat, just like that. And we'll make sure you run over the actual patch. That way it's nice and ironed out, because you're going to get a nice crease on your shirt. That's your goal right there. What I like to do is I like to put a little extra starch on the patch and around the patch. That way it really gets the crease in there, because the patch is a really difficult place to get the crease down.
Can't speak up a little bit. Okay, that's my bad.
Then you're going to flip it over, and you're just going to quickly do the exact same thing to the other side. Kind of like to lean the sleeve over the side a little bit, hold it down. Just make sure you don't burn yourself doing that. I've done that a couple times. Just do the exact same thing. Simple process. Make sure you go around the patch. You don't want any starch left over. And try and make sure you don't get any starch anywhere else but the sleeve. You see anything on your sleeve? See if you can get it off, otherwise it might just have to go through the wash again. Let's see how that looks. That looks pretty good. And what you're going to do is you're going to do the exact same thing to the other side. The sleeve without the patch kind of tends to be a little more difficult because it bunches up like this. So what you can do about that is you want to start the side with the least amount of bunching up on it. Just got to kind of work with it so that there are no creases. Put it down. Starch. Personally, I kind of prefer to use a lot of starch on mine, but that's up to you. I think the starch makes it look nice and crisp. Really helps it stay in place while you're wearing it. Now again, you got to be really careful on the one without the patch, because otherwise you're going to bunch this up. That'll cause creases on the bottom, and you don't want that. Now again, do the same thing to the other side. The only crease that you want is in the fold right in the center. You're going to be wanting it to come right from the bottom of your shoulder epaulet down the sleeve. Now again, be careful on the bottom of the patchless sleeve. You got to make sure that you don't cause any creases bunching up near here, near the armpit. And there you go. Then after that, you want to start on the back. So you're going to start out on the lower back. This already looks pretty nice as is, but you might as well run over it just in case. Just gonna do the same thing. A little bit of starch. Go over it with the iron. Now I like to have my iron on a fairly high setting, but usually your iron's going to tell you what setting you want it for, let's say cotton, nylon, anything like that. So these shirts are cotton, so according to this you want to have it at setting 6. I've got it a little above that, so I'm being fairly careful. Make sure you're not leaving the iron on too long. You can stain your shirt. That's looking pretty nice. Then you want to kind of bring up the side of the back. So what you're doing is you're going to get creases right about here, right along this seam. Same thing, a little bit of starch, iron through.
Pretty simple.
I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Bring up the seam. Starch a bit, iron. Easy peasy. Then to finish off the back, what you're going to do is, you're going to bring it up near the back of your shoulders, lay it to the side like this, flatten it out. You're going to want to make sure you get right below the collar.
Starch. Iron.
Now again, make sure you're getting the sides of the back pretty close to the sleeve.
Looks pretty nice.
Now what I do for the collar is I just quickly flip it up, put it on its side, starch across. Be very careful. Usually I don't starch or iron the bottom of the collar just because it becomes unnecessary. But for this case I'm going to. Didn't put very much starch on there. I don't want it to spread through the rest of the shirt. Just going to go across the top of the collar with the iron.
Looks pretty nice.
Then the last bit that you have to do is the front. So all you got to do, spread it on the seam, make sure it's nice and flat. Spread it out. Starch it. Personally, I only starch the bottom of the pocket. It kind of tends to become redundant. If you starch the top little bit right here, there's really no point because it's already pressed down. But I always go over it anyways, just so I can kind of get a better access to the bottom.
Just iron along.
Then, just like with the back, kind of want to move it up a bit. I always put it to the side. That way you can get good access to the chest. A little bit of starch. Nice starch under the collar. It's kind of up to you. You can just ignore the collar if you want. Make sure it gets nicely done right above your pocket. This area right here, when it tends to crease down, make sure you get that. And we're just going to quickly run through. Do the same thing to the other side. Try not to worry about the buttons too much. What I do is I kind of just iron around them. The rest of the shirt's flattened out. Buttons will flatten out with it. Kind of tends to go up, up, up. Now the only difference between the short sleeve and the long sleeve is that when you're doing the long sleeve, you want to unbutton the bottom of your sleeve before you actually iron your sleeve. Other than that, you're going through the exact same process, except I usually don't iron the collar on my long sleeve. Generally doesn't need it. I don't know what it is, but something about the way that the long sleeve is formed, it's like they have a little extra protection in the collar, so I don't have to iron the collar. And again, make sure you're getting the chest. There you go.